Welcome, gender-conscious friends. I'm your host, Fate Zay. My pronouns are they, he, she, and I'm so glad the simulation brought you here today. This is Our Lives, Gender Included, where I and another gender-conscious friend talk about things found in everyday life and how gender, if at all, affects those topics. This episode's topic is coming out. But before I intro our guest, I gotta get the important stuff out of the way. First of all, thank you to all of the listeners and everyone who helps make this podcast possible, including this podcast's first financial supporter, Danielle M. Thank you so much, Danielle M. Also, if you can, please rate and review this podcast if the platform you are listening on so supports it. I very much appreciate it. Thank you, please. Also, if you're into the social media thing, all of my links are on my website, lyricallyfaight.wixsite.com/fatezay. All the links are at the bottom of the first page. There's my TikTok, which I use a lot, my Insta, which I use mostly a lot, my Twitter, which I barely ever use at all. I'm sorry if you use Twitter. It's not my thing. I link to my YouTube. There are a bunch of old videos on there, and I'm trying to make new videos. But your boy's brain is too scatterbrained to be doing this, okay? I'm trying. There's also a link to this podcast if you'd like to share it with someone. A link to a wish list if you'd like to get me a present. A link to my Patreon if you would like to financially support me in exchange for different benefits. A link to my Redbubble if you would like to buy my art on various products like cups and blankets and hats and buttons and basically everything. And also, there's a link to my webtoon called Pre-Tea, but I'm drawing myself as a teacup, so it's a pun. It's hilarious. I know you love me. Oh my god. But with that, on to the episode.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
There's your gorgeous face friend.
Thanks.
So, hello everyone. This is one of the coolest Debbie girls who actually did get cooler. She changed her name. Our gender conscious friend, Dahlia. Hello.
Hi. I have not changed my voice since last episode.
It's alright. It's alright.
I have changed my name.
So would you like to recap your gender journey?
Yeah, for sure. So, my gender journey starts all the way back in the day I was born, even before then, actually. My gender journey starts before I was born because my mother had a lot of cravings for sweet food, unlike with my older brother, where she had a lot of cravings for salty food. So she thought she was going to have a daughter. She did. It just took her daughter 18 years to figure it out. Then, after I was born, the nurse brought me to my mom. And this was a hospital that used blue blankets for boys and pink blankets for girls. But I was born around Christmas time, so the blankets were red and green. And so I don't know that they correlated to gender or not. But it didn't matter because my eyelashes were so heckin' long that the nurse said, "Here she is." My mom was like, "I didn't have a daughter." It's fine. So then, cut to years later, we're at a family reunion. I'm a child. I don't even remember this happening. That's how young I was. But one of our relatives was like, because this was at a time when everything was gay, like, oh, that's so gay. Like, everything was gay. So, and things that were, if a man did something feminine, then that was seen as gay, which it feels like it would make more sense to consider that person trans rather than gay. But
I don't think they cared about the difference.
Yeah. Look, I just have OCD, so, and I actually have it. Like, my therapist said that she thinks I have it, so Uh, so like to me, it's like if we have these labels for things, why aren't we using them correctly?
Yeah.
Right. So I was playing with some dollhouse or something. I don't know. I was playing with toys that were traditionally seen as feminine, and the and this relative made some comment to my parents about it, and it was homophobic, and this guy
Hmm.
is not a good guy. I don't remember who he was, but my parents said, because this was before gay marriage was legalized, so they said, whether we're going to their wedding or their commitment ceremony, we'll be there. So, because commitment ceremonies at the time were used as a way to wed two gay people
Hmm.
because it couldn't be done legally. So,
Yeah.
uh, more years down the line, I'm neurodivergent, so I'm trying to figure out where I am in society, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm a man, so I should do manly things and not like girly things.
Hmm.
Something that I deeply regret. Like when I was in preschool, they asked, "Do you want your nails painted?" And I'm like, "I'm a boy, no." And my parents didn't teach me that.
Yeah.
That was me masking from like TV and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I just thought that's what I'm supposed to do. And I wish I didn't think that, because at one point I said to my mom, I was like, hey, maybe I'd like to have my nails painted one day. And she was like, okay. And my parents have always been very accepting. Um, so like they were, I mean, of course they were, with the whole commitment ceremony story. But like, so then at some point, I thought I was bisexual. And I hate that I ended up not being that, because I feel like a lot of people who are against bisexuality and non-binary people use it as like, oh, it's just a phase. It's just a transition into when you make a real decision. And it's like, that's not how that works. It just so happens that's how it worked for me.
Yeah. That's
And that's
one of my least favorite quotes from Glee is when Kurt is talking to Blaine and Blaine's like, I'm not bisexual, and Kurt goes, no one's bisexual. That's just a pit stop on the way to Gay Town. And I go, cool.
yeah, well, because people like bisexual people do exist. I would know. I was one of them.
I
Um,
am one of them right here.
exactly. You are, and you uh, are you non-binary? I realize I haven't asked you what your gender is.
Um, so it depends on who's asking. Like if they don't know anything about gender, I go, yeah, I'm non-binary. But if they do, then specifically I'm genderqueer.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but that's cool. But yeah, there are people who are these things, and that's why I'm like, now it really was a phase. And that sucks. But I feel like I would have had the same issue had I been born female, because
Hmm.
because then I could say, yeah, it was a phase. Liking men was the phase. For those at home, I just dabbed,
Yeah.
because I'm very cool. Whip.
Yeah. And then she also did the whip and nene. So now we're here.
No, no,
We're
just
here.
the whip. I did not do the nay nay. I will not accept this slander.
No, you totally did the nene. They can't see.
I
It
did
is my
not do
word
the
against
nay
yours.
nay. I only whipped. I whipped when I said whip. I did not do. I will not accept this defamation of character. So anyway, back to my gender journey. The bisexuality is important because I did have queer attraction in me. I just didn't have a way to rationalize it. Um,
Hmm.
for a while, I was like, okay, so I got TikTok, and TikTok's algorithm pairs you with people that it thinks are similar to you. This was in April of 2020. A lot of people came out of the pandemic. Well, we're still in the pandemic, but a lot of people went into the pandemic and then um, realized that they were queer.
Hmm.
I already knew I was queer. I just wasn't queer in the right way.
Hmm.
It's not in a way that is accurate to me now, I should say. So what I found as something that's really interesting is non-binary people and bisexuals have like the same energy.
Yeah.
So if my gaydar is going off and I'm like, oh, that person's bisexual, definitely. Nah, I'm non-binary though. It's like, oh, cool. Or
Yeah.
like, I'll be like, oh, that person definitely non-binary. Nah, bisexual though. And so that's what I like to think happened with me.
hmm You
Um,
just got your vibes wrong. It's all right.
anyway, so I was flung into bisexual woman TikTok.
hmm
Knowing TikTok's algorithm pairs you with people who are similar to you, I was like, wonder what that's
Weird. That's so weird.
because I'm not a woman, uh, but I am bisexual. I was like, what is it? I don't need a gender crisis.
Yeah.
I I didn't need a gender crisis. I needed a gender and sexuality crisis. So I found
Yeah.
out I'm not bisexual. Uh, I am not. I was non-binary. And fun fact, two people that I have cited as being my favorite TikTokers. I've kind of fallen off of TikTok, but two people that I've cited as being my favorite TikTokers, Howdy Howdy Y'all One and Graceful.Addison, also known as Addison Grace. They both later came out as non-binary,
hmm
uh, going on their own gender journeys. And I was like, hella, we really were all similar. We would have been great friends. Look, this may be the parasocial relationship talking,
It
but
definitely sounds like the parasocial relationship, but continue.
look, it's definitely a parasocial relationship, but I feel like we would have all gotten along. I feel like we would have had a relationship that would have consisted of sending each other TikToks.
Yeah. To be fair
And
though, I don't really understand how friendships work. I kind of like have one conversation with a person and then add them, and I'm like, yeah, that's my friend. So
is that not how it works?
I have no clue, but that's how I decide it works.
Well, anyway, so going on to TikTok, I figured out that I was non-binary. I went into TikTok, came out as a he, they, very like, oh, I'm kind of off the gender binary. And like, I took bi because I had bi in my bio. I took that out.
hmm
My phone case was bisexual. My background on my profile picture was the same art. It was also bisexual. And then I didn't change it after realizing I wasn't bi just because I liked it.
Yeah,
It wasn't even that good of a profile picture. I think I was just lazy.
that's fair. Honestly, when you have a lot of social media, it is so annoying to change your profile picture. Like, I did it for the beginning of this year and having to go through every single social media I own, like even ones that like people don't know that I have, but like having to like remember what my Pinterest login is to fucking change the picture is ridiculous.
I have a different profile picture for every social media.
Oh, do you? I don't.
Yeah. It helps
It's
me
the same everywhere.
it helps me differentiate them. All right, so back onto the gender journey because I have ADHD. We've gone on several tangents. I went into TikTok, came out as a he they. Um, then I went to basic training.
hmm
And not to say that basic training, that the army has gone soft. We're not. It's just that when you are the only non-binary person in the entire platoon, people have questions.
hmm
And you have to answer those questions. And it was honestly really good surrounding myself with people who had no idea of any of what I was going through because they asked questions that I myself had not asked. And I had to come up with an explanation for it, and it really helped me out. And also being called man and guy for 11 weeks straight fucking sucked and gave me massive gender dysphoria. So I went to they he. Uh,
hmm
I may have I think I went to they he like it might have been right before basic actually, and then like after basic, it was during AIT, which is advanced individualized training. It's where you get your job. Like everyone's a
Hmm.
soldier, but there are soldiers who are truck drivers, there are soldiers who are plumbers, there are
Yeah.
soldiers who are infantry. Like there's
Hmm.
different jobs in the army. So at AIT, I went full they them because I was like, okay, I can't do this during basic because I've already come out to everyone, and I'm not going
Hmm.
to do that again. However,
Hmm.
something needs to change here. So for AIT, I went full they them, and I said this to my queer friends, and they were like, "Hell yeah!" And I changing my pronouns on all of my socials was difficult, but I got it. I got it done. Um, Before I left for the army, I did tell my mom that I was non-binary. And then my dad found out while I was on call with them uh, at AIT
Hmm.
because we were we were allowed to have our phones on the weekends. I've heard that like the longer your AIT is, the less strict they are with phone usage. I had the shortest AIT. But it was like it was leagues better than with basic. It was much more lax. So
Hmm.
um and I was and so I candidly mentioned it because I forgot that I hadn't told him.
Yeah,
He was like, he is accepting, of course, but he had questions and he still has questions.
that's
Uh,
fair.
but we'll talk about coming out later because that's the theme of today's episode.
Hmm.
And later to give some updates from last time, um, I figured out that I was a demi girl because I couldn't rationalize my feelings of both femininity and androgyny, and then I realized, wait a minute, I don't have to rationalize those feelings. I can just there's already a label for it, demi girl. Yes. Next question, Alex. Um, I figured out the reason why I felt like I had queer attraction to women was because I was a queer woman. So I made peace with the term lesbian. Love that term. So
Hmm.
like I figured out I was a lesbian before I figured out I was a demi girl.
Yeah,
I was non-binary. I had another non-binary lesbian friend who was like, "Hey, you're just as valid as I am with being a lesbian, because that's a non-man attracted to other non-men. They were the lesbian master doc. I can't because I have ADHD and I can't read things."
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, but I assume that they are correct.
You're like,
Um,
they know what they're talking about. They read.
they know what they're talking
So,
about. They can read. So yeah. So I was like, "Oh hell yeah." I could be a lesbian. That's awesome. Then I figured, and I was non-binary. I was a demigirl, but I still had my name. Technically, it's still my legal name of Isaac,
mhm.
which, and it's not like I can. It's not like I can hide it because there's a previous episode of this show starring me from before I changed my name. So whatever. Yeah, I used to be called Isaac. It meant laughter, and that was great for a comedian. Uh,
Mhm.
but but then my last name is Dahl, and like the author Roald Dahl, and the reason why that's important is because my my new name is Dahlia,
Mhm.
and it's a flower, but it's so similar to my last name. I sound like an Archie Andrews character,
Yeah.
Dahlia Dahl.
Or like a woman about to be fridged in a superhero comic.
Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lois
So,
Lane and Dahlia Doll are best friends.
hell yeah. Um, so I figured out that I liked having the name Dahlia. And it's really funny because it's so similar to my last name. I really do wonder if the army had things to do with me becoming more queer than I was before I joined. Because in the army, you're not known by your first name. You're known by your last name.
Mhm.
So I got called Dahl a lot.
Mhm.
so eventually, maybe I just got so used to it that I was like, you know what? That's my first name too.
Yeah. You're like, that works.
Uh,
So this episode's topic is coming out. What are your general feelings on coming out?
coming out is great when it's on your own terms and it's with people who are not going to kick you out of the house that you live in.
Hmm.
I had loving parents. They were very accepting and understanding, and they weren't going to kick me out of their house when I came out to them. Some people don't have that experience, and that really sucks for them. But so that's why. So I would hate to say coming out is great and it changed my whole life, because I don't want those people to be like, oh, maybe I should. If it's not safe,
Hmm.
don't.
Yeah. I think I didn't really get to come out. Like I came out to my friends sort of, but that was kind of like every time I made a new friend, I would have to let them know sort of thing, which isn't exactly the same as coming out, I feel like, but also is. It's complicated.
Coming out is exhausting,
Yeah. But like
especially.
I didn't really come out. My parents were like, "Are you gay?" And I was like, "No, a little. I don't know." And they were like, "Cool."
How did they find out?
So basically, I was 9 and didn't know how to use the incognito tab, and they were like, "Hey, we saw you looking up lesbians. What does this mean for you?"
That's a story and a half. Gee, that's
Yeah.
they went through your search history.
Well, I was 9, so
Okay.
I don't know. I wouldn't just hand a 9-year-old the internet and not like check every
No,
once in a while.
no, that's fair. That is fair. That is, yeah. I did not have a cell phone until eighth grade. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, that's sensible. My sister, she just turned 9 and she got her first phone and it's like an iPhone, like one of the newer ones. And then my brother's like, that is ridiculous. We all got shitty Android phones. I'm so mad. Like,
See, I got a flip phone, but I liked the flip phone. Honestly, if I still had a flip phone, like I love all the things that I can do on my smartphone, but
mhm.
like I would still have a flip phone if it were practical. Um,
Honestly, my first phone was one of those like BlackBerry shaped type phones, but like you flip them over and there's a little keyboard. And
I love
it was
those.
shared between me and 2 of my sisters. Like that was my first phone. It was like a group phone.
Look, Apple and Samsung are trying to get rid of buttons. We need to bring back buttons.
Yeah, I like the buttons. I enjoy the buttons.
You know what? The next iPhone that comes out, it should have two keyboards.
Hmm.
Even more buttons. Like, I don't even
Bring
know.
back the buttons.
Bring them back. Hashtag bring back buttons 2023.
Of course.
Button movement. Right. The coming out is exhausting. I actually, because you have to do it with like everyone, and
Hmm.
especially, and when it's like when it's your sexuality, it doesn't matter a whole lot unless someone says something offhand like, "Oh, geez, these gays are everywhere, right?" Like, yeah, there's even one right
Yeah.
here.
Like it doesn't come up unless somebody's like, "Hey, do you want a date?" You're like,
Yeah.
"So the thing about me is."
So, yeah, fun fact, I'm gay. It's like, oh, really? Well, I've been thinking I'm trans. Yeah, but I'm also just not attracted to you,
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Uh,
But coming out with your gender is a lot different because as
yeah,
soon as you talk to them, if they misgender you, you have to say something.
yeah.
Well, you don't have to, but
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, you don't have to. And it really sucks on days that I like forget to shave.
mm,
Because it's like, because me with my deep ass voice and my scraggly ass face, I'm like, I'm actually a trans woman, and I just feel like that caricature that you see in like political cartoons,
Mm-hmm.
conservative memes of what is a someone who would be traditionally seen as a man but wearing a dress.
Yeah,
Uh,
like any trans character from the early 2000s.
Something like that, yeah. So, but yeah, like, and there are people that I've known for years that I have to come out to over and over, and it's like, why do I know so many people? So anyway, like I'd be at my church. So here's something about coming out. My parents have not wanted to do it for me, and
What
what
do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is we'll go to church, and after church we'll all be talking. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, how are you? How have you been? And my dad will say something like, "Oh, he's going to college soon."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Dad, we talked about this.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually had a coming out video. I made a YouTube video
Mm-hmm.
about coming out. It did not do as well as Jaden Animations' so,
Shocker. Absolute
right.
shocker.
See, I thought if I titled the video coming out and I have myself in front of a pride flag, then that's gonna do numbers. And it didn't. And I was so mad. I was like, how? This seems like something that even if you don't know this person, you should be nosy about, right?
Yeah.
It didn't do as well as I wanted it to, but my parents did watch it, and I knew they were going to watch it, and I was tired of coming out to them because I'd done it twice already.
Mm-hmm.
Once when I thought I was bisexual, and then once when I was like, I'm non-binary, actually. That one didn't really go over very well because I came out to my mom in the car, and she was accepting to the point that she's just like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's her reaction. I'm like, I had to build up a lot of courage to tell you this.
Yeah, like I
And
was prepared to answer questions. I have a
yeah.
PowerPoint.
And then my
Um,
dad has like so many questions all the time. And to be fair, he is a news reporter. He is a journalist.
mhm.
So it makes sense that he has questions. But he has a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so that's why I made a video to come out to them and explain the term demigirl to them. And they didn't have any reaction, so I kind of nudged it out of them. I was like, "Oh, watch any cool videos lately? I
Yeah.
uploaded a video recently." Um,
How often have you guys been on YouTube lately?
yeah, like have you seen any videos from the people you're subscribed to? And I should say person because they are only subscribed to me,
Oh, that's great. I love that.
as far as I know, anyway. But yeah, they I love my parents, but I don't know that they fully understand that they have a daughter. So,
Well, that's fair.
because see, here's the thing. Like, I was like, my dad he and him would misgender me when we're all talking to people, and it's weird to correct your own parents in front of people, especially with
Mm-hmm.
someone like that's a lot of pressure. And I was like, hey, and like my dad knows, so I'm like, hey, I'm my pronouns are still she, they in public, you
Yeah.
know, like they still are. And he's like, I'm learning.
I think it also depends on your relationship with your parents because like with my dad, like he like will introduce me like some of his friends. Like, this is my daughter. I'm like, child. I'm your child. And he's like, oh, yeah, my bad. And I'm just like, yep, stop it.
The thing is, I don't want to hurt his feelings, but
Yeah,
it's
that's what
also
I'm
like,
saying. You have a different relationship with your parents. I sort of do.
yeah. So, and it's like, and he's like, mom messes up too sometimes, and I'm like, yeah. And then she like apologizes or corrects herself,
Yeah.
and like, and he'll do that. But he's also like, I mean, I don't want to, it's your story to tell. And I'm like, okay, so it is my story to tell, but also I told you the story.
Yeah.
You can refer to me as your daughter. You don't have to
Hmm.
you don't have to explain the whole thing to people. Coming out is exhausting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's exhausting for my parents too, to be like, oh, so remember my son Isaac? She's actually my daughter Dahlia now, with people
Yeah.
who like do know me. So I understand that aspect. But
Hmm.
at the same time, it's like, why do I have to correct you in front of people? If you mess up, that's one thing, but it feels deliberate. It feels like they don't care. And my dad has said, I really hope you don't think that, because I do.
Yeah.
And it's just it's frustrating. Like I do get where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like I told you the story so that you would know, and so
Hmm.
you can like respect me and affirm my gender in front of other people.
So, how did coming out go with like friends and like partners?
Okay, so I came out to my friends before I came out to my parents. Before I came out to anyone, I came out to this one group of friends that I have on Discord. They're my queer buds. They're all great. Love them all. I'm dating one of them.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I would come out to them first. I was like, can you use they, the pronouns for me? Can you use the name Dahlia for me? For those at home, I'm putting the tips of my index fingers together,
Hmm.
like in the bottom emoji.
Yeah,
Uh,
the uwu bottom emoji.
yeah, the holy trinity of the crying eyes and then the two fingers.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious how much we're explaining our movements.
Well, it's a podcast. People can't see
Yeah,
the Zoom
no,
meeting.
I know, but like I don't think any of my other episodes we have done as many movements that we would have to explain afterwards.
Well, a lot of my comedy is visual, which you'd think me having a blind brother, I would I would have
Adopted some other comedy.
yeah, I would have been a little more auditorial with my comedy, but no. Anyway, so I think I've always been polyamorous.
Hmm.
I just haven't really thought about it because like I would always be like, well, I like multiple people at once.
Hmm.
Is that weird? And I feel like I feel like it's weird to be like you like one person at a time and then are in a relationship with that one person, but then if you break up, no more feelings for that person,
Yeah.
and you get in a new relationship, and like
Although
that.
for monogamous people, usually it's they take a break before they get with the next person, or they stopped having feelings for that person, and that's why they could easily date the next person so quickly.
Yeah. But I mean, what I'm trying to say is like, I don't understand, like, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to, like, say to your partner, hey, do you think this person's attractive? And they'll be like, either yes or no. Or, like, there's no reason. Like, I feel like cheating is different because if you've agreed that you are both going to be in a monogamous relationship, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Even if you are.
I literally just did an episode on polyamory. Like that's literally what we talk about. Like
Hell yeah.
you could still cheat in polyamorous relationships.
You can cheat in polyamorous relationships.
Cheating is breaking of boundaries. It's not exactly just being with another person.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. If you have made the agreement that you are in a monogamous relationship with someone, don't break that to be with someone else. If you have polyamorous feelings, talk to that person. That's
Yeah.
the thing I don't get about a lot of like romance movies is that people just
Oh
don't
yeah.
talk to each other.
That is
It's like,
one of my main things that I hate about those like teen romance. You have to choose between the guy she's always been with and the one who's clearly better. Date them both. Why are we doing this? Why? It makes me so mad every time. I think I basically came out to the internet as all my friends because I don't know how to make friends properly. Um,
I can send you more memes.
so I basically made a TikTok video. I was like, hey guys, I think I'm gonna go by ABC now, and I don't know if I'm gonna like any of them better, but that's what's happening. And everybody was like, cool, thanks for letting us know. And I was like,
Hello.
cool, that went well. So
Hello.
then I like my boyfriend while he does have bi wife energy, okay, sometimes I'm a little nervous. So instead of just coming right out to him, I just like subtly brought up non-binary things for like months before I even said anything to him about it. And so like one day I was like sad and I said something about non-binary people and he was like, "Babe, are you non-binary?" And I was like, "Maybe." Um,
Oh yeah, great cover. Doesn't suspect a thing.
yeah. And like
Really threw
I
off
had
the scent.
already like changed my pronouns on all my social media and everything, like started dressing differently. So he already was suspicious. So like I think that was just like the tipping point where he was like, "Hey, you wanna talk about something?"
You're like,
I don't know. Maybe.
"Meh,
But I mean he was really cool about it. He was like, "That's totally fine. Like I still love you."
love that.
Yeah. He was like, "I don't care, you're still you." And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you." And I was like, "This is so weird. Love."
Love that so much. Love wins. Love wins. Ugh.
I know how you have come out, but like if you weren't worried about how people would have thought that you would come out, what would have been like a funny, like cool way to come out for you?
So I took COVID vaccines because my RSP, I want to say, yeah, my RSP, which is an RSP is I'm gonna look really stupid if I'm getting the acronym wrong, but an RSP is basically where in the National Guard where you go to do drill weekends before you go to basic training.
Hmm.
So my RSP, they were giving them out because the National Guard units in Illinois were handing out COVID vaccines.
Hmm.
So we just had them, and they were like, "Hey, we're vaccinating our soldiers."
Yeah.
So it would have been really funny because I was saying that, like everyone knew it. So it would
Hmm.
have been really funny if I also started estrogen. So at the same time, I'm like, oh, gee, the vaccine must be doing this. Oh
The
no.
vaccine made me trans.
Jeez, guys.
The way one of my siblings came out was she found some YouTuber singing a song about how the person that sent this to you is gay. And look, aren't you excited? Like they're gay. And they sent it to everybody. And I am so jealous that that's the way they got to come out. Because I don't love to do that. Okay. I think that's dramatic and hilarious. And all of the family was like messaging me, like, "What does this mean?" And I'm like, "Did you watch it?"
Did you watch the video?
They said it right in the first sentence what it meant. What do you mean?
You
Like
know, I have some.
I would have loved to have that be my coming out instead of what mine actually was. So before we go, I have some quizzy games for you.
Oh, yeah, love the games.
So this first one is, does this give you gender envy? So I'm going to give you something random and you're going to tell me yes or no and preferably explain, but you don't have to, if it gives you gender envy. So the first one is fingerless gloves.
Yes, because so I very much I'm very much a butch lesbian. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
masked, which is difficult when you're AMAB. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I have the dyke haircut. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how I think of myself. Like Ruby Rose is my gender. So fingerless gloves is in that kind of butch lesbian aesthetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like if Fonzie would wear it, then like
Mm-hmm.
gender envy.
Okay. The second one is a bottle of Elmer's glue.
No.
No. Okay.
It's glue. Glue does not have a gender assigned to it.
You'd be surprised. I've said some pretty weird shit on here, and people have been like, absolutely.
Hell,
So,
hell yeah.
Okay, and then the last one is a purple dry erase marker.
Ooh, ooh. I like the color purple. It's
Mm-hmm.
the dry erase marker that makes me. You know what? I would have that on like a tool belt.
Mm-hmm.
A purple dry erase marker as the butch lesbian. It's just like a random thing to have because I'm not very handy.
So, yes.
So I don't know, kind of in the middle. I like the color purple because that's very well. One, it is. I forgot about this. It's very important to lesbian culture, with violets and everything.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
purple dry erase marker is a maybe.
Okay, that's fair. That's
So we
fair.
got yes, no, and maybe so.
Okay. And then our second birthday game is queer advice for the gender conscious. Where basically I just give you a topic and you would give your advice on it.
Oh yeah, you know how much I love talking. This episode is in like 2 hours.
Okay, so what is your advice for being out at like your place of work?
Well, so I have had I gotta do my taxes. I've this this tax year I've had three sources of income. So I've had three jobs. And that is the Army. I've been with a company that cares for the elderly in their homes. It's called Home Instead.
Hmm.
Uh, and I have announced for softball games at my old high school.
Okay.
The advice is come out to people that you can, and if you are able to present the way you can. When I was working with Home Instead, I was working with elderly people, and not to stereotype elderly people, but I didn't want to go in there wearing a dress and then for them to say, well, actually, we don't want you to be in our home.
Hmm.
Because I wanted to help at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So then with going to the school, I was able to present however, and I felt comfortable correcting people when they misgendered me, especially because I was wearing a 3-inch pin
Hmm.
with my pronouns on it. It's like learn to read. Uh, you know, and then in the Army, because of equal opportunity, I am allowed to like come out to people and say, hey, these are actually my pronouns. If you could please, while I'm transitioning. And still in the Army, I am one of the very few, if not only, queer people in my company. So I'm able to like talk to people and be like the person who can explain things. And I
Yeah.
like explaining things to people. If you couldn't tell, I like to talk.
Really? That is shocking news.
I know, right? I hide it so well.
You said nothing this entire podcast. Anyway, what is your advice for finding representation?
Oh God, you sometimes you just have to Google queer things. A lot of streaming services will like now they have like a queer stories thing. Uh,
Hmm.
if you like um honestly, a lot of representation that I've found has been through happenstance. Like a friend would share a clip from a show like Hetero, and I'd be like, "Hey, what is this show?" And
Hmm.
then, of course, something like Heartstopper just kind of pops off.
Hmm.
Like my other queer friends would talk about shows like First Kill, and
Hmm.
I would get memes recommended to me about like Arcane, knowing nothing about the show, but following like cosplayers who would talk about it and they would reference something being queer. And I'm like, oh, there's queer people in this show. And there's not in Arcane. I mean, there is, but it's not like the focus of the show, and it's also never outright confirmed. But like with finding representation, if you're outright trying to find it, Google queer shows or shows with queer representation, or find it through word of mouth.
Well, thank you. Do you have anything you would like to promote before we go?
Yes, I am Mega Pack Kid. That is MEGAPACKID across all social media.
Hmm.
Um, trying to get to I have 6,962 followers on TikTok right now. Would really appreciate 7 more.
Okay.
To the funny number. Uh, I'm active on Instagram, pretty much every social media that you know of, even some you don't know of, perhaps.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me.
Hey, anytime.
It's always great to have you.
Awesome. Come back next episode when I will be back. I'm actually the only guest now. This is just Zay and Dahlia talking.
That's it. It's only us two. No more people.
Only us. Oh, real quick, on my YouTube, I make a show similar to Scott the Woz and the Angry Video Game Nerd. It's a video game review show, and I also talk about just general video game related topics. I'm making a video about the Super Mario Bros. Movie that it will be out by the time this episode airs.
All right, so everybody definitely watch that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again to Dahlia for joining me on the topic of coming out. Our Lives, Gender Included is created by Faitse, hosted by Faitse, edited by Faitse, produced by Faitse, and partially financially supported by Danielle M. To access my socials, you can go to my website, lyricallyfaight.wixsite.com/Faitse. The link will be in my description, and you will find the links to all of my socials on the first page. Also, if you click on the support page, you can support me financially via a one-time donation on my PayPal, my Cash App, or my Venmo. Or you can support just this podcast by subscribing to Anchor, or now Spotify for Podcasters. Or you can subscribe to my Patreon for the various tiers I offer in exchange for different benefits. Or you can buy my art on various products at my Redbubble, on hats, and blankets, and cups, and socks even sometimes, okay? I got as much as I can put on there. Go get it. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day in the simulation.